That's fine.
Oh yeah. No, there's something really special about home birth and just being tucked up in your own bed.
Yeah, afterwards as well, just be able to go straight back to bed.
Yeah, it's amazing. You didn't have to transfer, did you, Erin? I can't even remember.
No. I gave birth and then birthed the placenta on the sofa, and then
That's right.
everyone cleaned up while I just lay there and breastfed, and then everyone went home.
Yeah, that's what's amazing, I think, because people, especially if you hire a doula, people are like, I don't want the mess, and I'm like, well, I'll clear it up, don't worry about that.
And surprisingly, there's not that much mess anyway. People think there'd be loads of mess, but there really isn't.
No, that's because you usually put a load of stuff to protect everything, so it's just a case of chucking it all away.
Yeah, the midwives come with like those big absorbent pads, and I bought two old, not too old, I bought two really cheap shower curtains, which I put on the floor and on the sofa, and then just fold it all up and chuck it in the bin afterwards.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I think probably the worst bit was probably Chi having to empty the birth pool afterwards, but he had to deal with it, not me, so it wasn't my problem.
Pumped, didn't he? So he actually, I think he did a good job. Yeah. He had that under control.
Yeah. It was fine.
Yeah. Oh, so it looks like it's the three of us.
I think it might be. Well, I don't know. We might get someone else join, but we can kick off anyway.
Yeah.
Olivia, I'm just going to go through a couple of slides just for the benefit of people who watch the recording afterwards, because you know who I am already. So, but I'll introduce Laura as well. Okay, so just disclaimer: if you have any medical concerns about your pregnancy, please make sure you contact your care providers like your midwife or your GP. And this session isn't a replacement for professional medical advice. And to also let you know that this session is being recorded, so if you didn't want to be on the recording, to pause the video on your camera, and if you wanted to submit questions anonymously, you can. Okay, so little about me. I'm Erin. I'm a mum of three. I've got a 5-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 7-year-old. I don't know why I did it that way around. Just odd. Anyway, I've had 3 quite different births. So the first one was I was very unprepared, and it was quite a medical birth. And then I progressively throughout my second and third births got more and more knowledgeable about birth, and more confident about my ability to birth. So I had a birth at the Oasis Centre second time round in Water with a doula, and a third time round I decided to have a home birth, water birth, with the lovely Laura as my doula. So I used hypnobirthing with my second and third births, and it made such a huge difference that I decided to retrain. So I'm now a trained hypnobirthing instructor, and I offer courses in person and over Zoom to anybody in sort of Southeast London, Kent area. So that's a little bit about me. Do you want to introduce yourself, Laura, or do you want me to introduce you?
I can do it. Congrats on your special mention. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, thank you.
That's great.
I didn't mention that. I forgot.
No, good. I saw that yesterday. So I am a doula, a birth and postnatal doula. I have been, and what that means, so a birth doula is a birth companion. I work with women and their partners, if they have one, throughout pregnancy, to inform and educate, and basically just get to know each other, so that by the time birth comes round, I am a trusted friend, basically. And so I will attend your birth as soon as you want me to join you, and then stay with you until your baby's born, and into your early motherhood. So I'm also a postnatal doula, and I work with new mums and their families to help ease the transition into parenthood. And that's actually the reason that I got into doulaing. I used to work in TV production. I had tricky births with a tricky birth with my first baby, but really it was the postnatal period that kind of threw me completely. And I thought I'd take to it like a duck to water, and all of my basically that my personality would just completely change overnight and I would adapt to motherhood, and it didn't happen, and I felt very lost and confused and kind of lost my point of reference. And I was in Australia, so I thought that was the reason. I thought, well, that's because I'm away from all my friends and family. But what I realized over time is that everyone experiences this to an extent, or most people experience this to an extent, and it really can, you know, the postnatal period can completely destroy people's confidence. And I realized that I really wanted to help with that. And so my job as a postnatal doula is very much to just help that transition runs more smoothly, to reassure people that they're not going insane, that you know, that this is all within the bounds of normal, and if it isn't, I have suggestions on what you can do to, you know, get outside support if it's what you need. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Or not a nutshell, quite a long rambling.
Okay, I'm going to get rid of the slides because we don't need them. So let me just stop that there. Cool. So Olivia, did you have any specific questions that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I've got a few, and some are more mental health and some are more physical health.
Mm-hmm.
But I think based on your intro, Laura, about how do you know what's normal and what's kind of less normal? So how do you know the difference between, how do you recognize that this is baby blues or this is actually something a bit more and I need help?
Yeah, and it's, you know, mental health is a tricky one because it's going on inside your head, so it can be hard to spot. It's baby blues is very, very normal. So you might find that when your milk starts to come in, maybe around day 3 to 5, you can't stop crying, and that's because your body's going through an enormous hormonal shift, and it's quite normal for that to kind of continue up and down for the first maybe 10 days. If it goes beyond that and doesn't get any better and you don't get any, I mean, it's not kind of the entire 10 days you're crying, it's just that you might feel quite up and down. When I had my baby, I was told it was day 3, day 5 and day 10 to watch out for, and then after that things should start to feel better. If you're completely sleep deprived, you're bound to feel emotional, but on the whole you should start to feel a bit happier, able to see the joy in things, able to do things for yourself. If you're chronically unhappy and hopeless and sad, then I would say that's the point where you contact your midwife, health visitor or your GP and just have a chat with them about it, and then they can see whether they're, you know, whether they think that you need any additional help. But it's the chronic aspect really, you know, if you're a month in and you realize that you haven't stopped crying for a month, then or even if your behavior is completely changed and you're far more anxious than you used to be, or and it just feels like it's a lot more overwhelming, because, you know, a little bit of anxiety is normal, a little bit of sadness is normal, but if it's overwhelming and chronic, then that's when you go and try and get some extra help.
And I think don't be afraid to ask for the help as well, because I think there's a real stigma around asking for help. But I know from personal experience, first time around, I had really bad postnatal depression, to the point where I couldn't get out of bed in the mornings. It was really, really bad. I just cried constantly, and I just refused to get any help because I was like, I just need to soldier on and I just need to get through it, and I just need to cope, and I should be able to cope with this. And actually, with hindsight, I should have got help, and I should have, I didn't want to have to take any antidepressants. I didn't want to have to ask for help, so I just struggled through. And that made my whole first year of maternity, I hated my first year of maternity leave first time round, and it makes me really sad now because I didn't enjoy it. And actually, if I had have sought help earlier on, I probably could have, had some more joy in my life that first year. So I think definitely ask help sooner rather than later, rather than feeling like you need to kind of soldier on.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think there's a sense of, we should be able to handle this. Like, this is our purpose. We were born to be mothers, blah, blah, blah. We were never meant to do this on our own, ever, ever, ever. And the way that society is set up at the moment, you know, isn't conducive to unless your mum does happen to live down the road, or you have got family in the local area who are willing to help, because actually, you know, my mum's not too far away, but she's got her own life, you know, and so there isn't that village of support. And so it's kind of up to us as individuals to try and build it for ourselves. So if you can start thinking now about even just collecting numbers, you know, who can you call on, who can give you a break so that you can go and catch up on some sleep, or just have some time to yourself. Yeah, and if things are getting quite, if you feel like you're in despair, then yeah, you know, doctors, nurses, health visitors can help. And it's common, you know, it's really common to get postnatal depression or postnatal anxiety. So you're not alone. It's still got stigma attached to it, but it's so common, way more than is reported.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, it may not be like that for you, you know, and you know, it's not like that for everyone. And I think having that awareness is a really good thing.
Yeah. So is there anything which, obviously asking for help and trying to build a support network, is there anything else I should do in the first couple of weeks to almost prevent it?
Stay in bed. Stay in bed as much as you can for the first week, really, 5 days to a week. Just you and your baby, get as much skin to skin as you can, because that will promote bonding, oxytocin, all of the love hormones to help you bond. And the more you're in bed, the more you're going to be sleeping. And you know, whatever kind of birth you have, it's exhausting, you know, it's a massive expenditure of energy, and you need to kind of honor that. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do, but rest really is, you know, it's such an obvious thing, but it really is the number one thing. And you can rest with your baby, and if you're not comfortable with co-sleeping, you know, have your baby next to you and just be close. The other thing is nutrition. So eat. Not everyone feels like eating straight after birth, which, you know, can be quite surprising. So, you know, even if it's just little and often, just grazing on snacks. And the key really is warming food. So not so much cold salads or things like that, but kind of simple warming foods, like you know, it's the stuff that you can put in your freezer, like stews and you know, lasagna type stuff, just stuff that's going to warm you up, or even soups and broths are amazing. And the other thing that I recommend really is trying to keep visitors to a minimum, which has been really handy over lockdown, because actually, you know, there's been no choice there, and even though it's been excruciatingly lonely sometimes, it has really helped with recovery, I think. So if people are going to come round, just keep their visits to a minimum, unless they're going to be really helpful. But if they're just there to kind of, you know, chat to you and talk about your birth and hold the baby, then really try and limit it. And yeah, that's probably I mean, really, rest is the best thing that you can do for yourself. Keeping your nutrition up and drinking loads and loads of water. And being super kind to yourself. Like, if you feel like you need to have a big cry, then just have it. If you feel a bit sad, then allow yourself to feel that. You know, don't fight it. Just let yourself feel it all.
Yeah.
I
And
think,
with oh, sorry, go for it, Erin.
no, it's fine. I was just going to say, with the visitors point, I think some new parents find it really difficult to say no to visitors. But if you're going to have visitors around and then they're expecting you to go and make cups of tea and, you know, to you know, wait on them and host, then I think it's better that you limit the visitors as much as possible, because yeah, I mentioned this when we did our course, but you know, after you give birth, you've got that huge dinner plate size wound on the inside of your uterus. Like, you know, if you had a C-section, no one would bat an eyelid at you not getting out of bed. But giving birth naturally as well, equally, you still really, really need to rest. So, you know, if you do have visitors, allow yourself to send them to the kitchen to make their own tea, and and to run around. They should be running around after you, not the other way around, definitely.
And the other, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say on the visitors point, that is something which I'm quite nervous about, because I think I think day 3 is when, say, my in-laws will want to come round, because you come out of hospital, you have a day or so just to settle in. Day 3, they want to come round quite soon. That's probably the time when I'm not going to be feeling great, and B, I'm going to be trying to establish breastfeeding, and if the baby's hungry, I'm going to need to disappear potentially for quite a long time. So it's just, how do you tell the visitors when to come, because you don't know when you're going to be feeling up to it and when the baby's going to want to feed.
Do they live nearby?
Yeah, they live like 20 minutes away.
And is it your husband, partner?
Husband, yeah.
Do you have a good relationship with them?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if they'll necessarily, because it's been so long since they had him, I'm not sure if they'll necessarily understand. Yeah, I don't know, they're quite traditional, so
he's the gatekeeper, really, I would say. Like, as long as well, not really as long as anything, like, he should be the gatekeeper when it comes to your in-laws, and really it's kind of up to him to set that boundary for you, because it's not, you're going to have a lot on your plate. You're going to be healing from birth, emotionally, mentally, even if it's a positive birth, which I'm sure it will be. There's a lot to process and a lot to kind of sit with. And yeah, as you say, breastfeeding, like, probably when your milk comes in, if you're anything like me, you're going to want to be walking around topless,
yeah.
And it's a hugely emotional thing, because you're feeding your baby, it's their sustenance, and the last thing you want are people there. So I would have a really honest chat with your husband and say exactly what your fears are, and kind of make him agree that it really has to be on your terms. So if you wake up on day 3 and you're not feeling up to it, they're going to have to wait another day. But it's up to him to set that boundary, not you. You've got enough going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I believe is right, because it's different with it. As long as you get on with your own parents, it's different with your parents, because, well, I found anyway, I wanted my mum there. With your in-laws, it's a completely different story, because you've got, well, again, if you're anything like me, there's often a fear of judgment. Are you going to be judging my parenting skills, and all the rest of it, and you just don't need that on day 3.
Yeah, and I certainly won't be walking around with my top off if my
exactly.
Yeah. But I fully plan to do that most of the time. So yeah, I'm a bit nervous about that, but I think COVID, perfect excuse for no other visitors.
Yeah. That really was a bit of a silver lining. But I think if your husband can set expectations now with them, and then it's kind of up to them to accept it, and it's not for you to take on board their feelings of disappointment or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They kind of just have to suck it up. And you're never going to get this time again, even if and when you have more kids, you're never going to get this little brand newborn bubble of just the 3 of you ever again. So enjoy it, and I often say to my clients, don't kind of put a loose ban on visitors for the first couple of weeks, because it's hard emotionally, even if you don't necessarily feel it. Like, you're hormonally attached to your baby. You're like a dyad that needs to be together, and so when your baby's being passed around from pillar to post, it kind of hurts you on a level.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be quite tough, even if you're not consciously aware of it. It can be really hard when your baby's not with you, like literally on you. So it's a tricky one. It's about you and your baby, not about anyone else.
Have you had any experience, because I really don't know what the consensus is with them at the moment, with coronavirus and everything. Like, we definitely will be keeping visitors to a minimum within the first couple of weeks, definitely. I think after that we are going to have friends and stuff who want to come round. have you heard anything about whether people are actually passing their baby around and letting other people hold their baby, or are people being quite cautious about that?
It's a personal decision, I think. I don't think there's much guidance really. Like there isn't much guidance with everything anymore about COVID, it feels.
Yeah.
You know, I think that I think it's a good idea to keep your baby with you, and, you know, meet outside if possible, and practice social distancing, and just say, you know, we're going to err on the side of caution. That's probably what I would suggest, particularly as we don't really know what's going on with COVID, you know.
I don't think anyone's going to judge you or you know, for asking for those, you know, that's for social distancing and for being cautious anyway, especially at the minute. So I wouldn't worry about kind of asking people to adhere to some, you know, guidelines.
Yeah,
I think that the other thing, just to go back to how to prepare yourself for that, you know, for the mental health aspect, is to think now about what your non-negotiables are. So have a think about, you know, what it is that you need in order to feel like yourself from day one. So whether that's, you know, I have to brush my teeth. It can be really simple. I have to brush my teeth in the morning, otherwise I'm going to feel like I'm going insane. Or I have to have a shower every night. Or, you know, I have to sit in the garden for 10 minutes and just feel that like I have to do that. And try and it can be as simple as that to begin with, and then you can, you know, as things become a bit more normal, then you can think of other things, but commit to that, you know, even if it's I need to lie on my bed and meditate for 10 minutes and just breathe. And same goes for your husband. So what are his non-negotiables? And the same goes for you together as a couple. So it might be committing to, you know, sitting and eating dinner together once a week and talking, and not having any technology and not having the TV on in the background, even if it's, you know, 10 minutes of eating and then you spend the rest of the time passing the baby to each other. I think that can really help just retain a sense of normality, and a sense of grounding and who you are. And it can be so simple. Like I just need 5 minutes so that I can go have a shower, because otherwise you can get swept up in this, you know, crazy newborn world, and you can lose yourself.
I don't think it's even newborn. I think it's I mean, even now I struggle with, you know, my own identity and separating mum from everything else. I think it's something that you need to continually work on, because you do, I mean, my, you know, Ty's just turned a year old, and I only now begin to feel like I'm beginning to feel back to my to me, because you do kind of lose your identity a little bit, because, and it's natural, because you as a mother, you do tend to put your children first in everything, you know, down to, you know, giving them the, you know, the best, if there's nothing in the fridge, like, you know, you end up giving them all the best bits and you eat the scraps, kind of thing, like, you know, it's normal. But I think that's a really good point, actually, that you need to set some time aside for yourself so that you don't lose your identity.
And it's things like, you know, baby's having a nap, your urge is to go tidy the house, or, you know, fold the washing or whatever, but actually that might be your urge, but you know, sometimes it's worth actually putting yourself first and going, you know what, that can wait, I'm gonna go and do this for myself. Even if it's like painting your nails, you know, just something that makes you feel like you. I think it's so important. And if the house, you know, starts to you know, if the dirt starts to pile up and that starts causing you anxiety, and if you have the money, then just hire some help. Get someone around to help you. It doesn't have to be forever.
I'm really worried about that. At the moment I'm just obsessively cleaning the whole time, and I know I'm not going to have time to do that afterwards, but I'm hoping that it's a nesting thing at the moment. And I'll lighten up a bit.
It's a difficult thing, you know. I work with a woman who was a complete, total and utter neat freak. Like, her house was absolutely incredible. It was like, you know, magazine style. And I thought it was spotless, but all she could see was dirt. Like, she was walking around with her baby and she was like, oh my God, I just can't handle it. And so part of my job was, you know, I'd get there in the morning and then I'd just do a quick once over with the Dyson and like do whatever little jobs that I couldn't even see, but were driving her insane. And then it was amazing. Like, she would visibly relax and it would make her feel so much better. And I think for her, it was just worth hiring some help. It doesn't have to be a doula. It can be a cleaner. You know, it can be someone you're ironing. It can be even just once every couple of weeks, or, you know, write a list of jobs. It's quite a cheeky one. I don't know whether anyone's ever done this, but write a list of jobs so that when you do get visitors, they can see how they can help. You know, because everyone's like, "Can I help? Can I help?" And they think help is holding the baby, but actually help, you know, doing the dishes.
I think that's a really good idea. The other thing that I've seen some people do is so that you don't have to, because if you don't feel comfortable sort of having that conversation with visitors about, I'd you know, if you smoke, don't hold the baby, or, you know, if don't hold the baby unless you've gone and washed your hands, for example, or don't kiss the baby, which is actually a really, really important one. You know, they print a list of sort of do's and don'ts and put it by the front door so that everyone sees it when they come in, and then you don't need to have that conversation. So maybe you can have a list of do's and don'ts and a list of if you want to help. You know,
and that goes back to asking for help. You know, oh, can I help? The last thing you're going to say to someone is, oh, can you go do my dishes, please? But if it's written down, you can kind of subtly nod in that direction. Post it on Facebook. I was going to say something else, but it's gone.
That was probably my fault, sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I can't remember. I'm sure it will come back.
One other thing that I was thinking of is people tend to want to bring like gifts for the parents and for baby, and, you know, everyone brings clothes and things, and you end up with this massive pile of clothes that still have the tags on because baby's outgrown it and you never got a chance to wear it. And actually what would be a lot more helpful is if they brought a dish. You know, if they brought around a lasagna or a stew or things, you know, so you don't have to cook, because finding the time to cook, and it's really important, like Laura said, that you do keep your nutrition up and that you eat, but finding the time to cook something decent is difficult when you have a newborn. So maybe even if you just, I don't know if you're a big like Facebook user or something, but you could, you know, just put it out there, you know, if we'd like people to do these kind of things if you do come to visit, at least then you don't need to have that conversation. You've kind of put it out into the ether, and if people kind of see it and adhere to it, then great.
Or even vouchers for Cook or something. Definitely use Cook. It's a new
and you get a discount. Actually, I think you get a new parent discount, don't you, if you
really
if you register
you get so you have to register online, I think, but you do. They're great at stuff like that, Cook. I was going to say, if you do have the urge to nest, then, you know, doing it like post baby, doing it isn't like, I'm not saying don't do it, because it actually might be the thing that makes you feel better and makes you feel like you know, but it's just, don't do it because you feel you have to. Do you have any other questions?
Do you have any tips about how to care for any tears or stitches?
So rest is the most important thing. Applying heat or cold so some people put maternity pads in the freezer, maybe put a few drops of lavender and maybe witch hazel on there, and then take it out of the freezer, pop it in your underwear, and then that can be quite cooling. But there's a lot of discussion on what's better, cold or heat, and a lot of people are in the heat camp because they say that it encourages blood and oxygen to the area, which helps with healing. So you can buy little warm compresses and then just wrap it and pop that in your, like, underneath your maternity pad too. And sitz baths. So you can either buy a physical sitz bath, which is a shallow dish, which you fill with hot water, well, quite warm water and sometimes herbs. You can buy herbal baths online, or you can make your own. Like lavender's out at the moment, so you can get some lavender and put it in this sitz bath. And then you basically just sit in it, but you can do this in a shallow bath too. So you can fill the bath just so that it's high enough to cover your legs, and then you sit in there for 20 minutes, and that will help with the healing. I'll send Erin some really good sitz bath providers that just sell the pre-packaged herbal baths. I really would recommend them. They're great. And also Epsom salts are really good, and they can help with the soothing and with the healing. Yeah, and then it's rest, it's not putting any pressure on that area at all. It's nutrition, eating nutrient-rich food. Bone broth is a brilliant place to start. This is a really good book, by the way, for postnatal nutrition. I'll send the link to Erin.
I actually have a copy if you want to borrow it, Olivia. I can drop it round.
Oh, thank you.
It's such a good little book. It's just really good, and the recipes are simple and quite delicious, actually. And you can make a lot of it in advance too. What else? Oh yeah, and then another thing that you can do is every time you go to the toilet, you can buy like a proper, I can't remember what they're called, or you can just use a bottle of water with the sports cap. And so every time you go to the toilet, just squirt your vulva with water, and you can put some Epsom salts and herbs in there too if you want to, or just some warm water is enough. Yeah, and I mean, really the number one thing is resting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used I did sitz baths, but I used a couple of drops of cypress oil. I would say with essential oils, just to make sure that you read up on it to make sure that it's safe to use, because essential oils can be quite strong.
Yeah.
But, cypress oil can help with healing. So
and a little bit goes a long way of essential oils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chamomile's good. Chamomile's good for soothing.
Mm.
Great.
And wrapping, like if you wrap your hips, even just in a scarf quite tightly, just around your hips, you know, I'm not sure whether it would directly heal any stitching or tearing, but it can just help that whole area feel quite supported.
Yeah.
Did you have any more questions, Olivia?
I don't think so. Thank you. That's all been amazing. Really, really useful. Some good tips I'll definitely be sharing with my husband.
The other thing I would suggest is once you've had although they don't seem to be doing physical 6 to 8 week checks at the moment, which is mad, but once you have reached 6 weeks and your GP's kind of signed you off, then I would really, really recommend going and seeing a women's physio. For a mummy MOT, they're called. And what a women's physio will do, and you can do this at any point postnatal from 6 weeks, is they analyze so they'll give you a physical check. So they'll put their fingers in your vagina and see how your pelvic floor is doing, and then give you exercises to help strengthen it. And just give you tips on your posture and what else you can do to support the healing of your pelvic floor, which is so important for things like incontinence, basically. Yeah. You know, a lot of women feel that they need to put up with weeing when they sneeze for the rest of their life, but that's absolute rubbish. Unfortunately, GPs don't really check for that kind of thing. They just check to make sure that it's all in working order and looks right, whereas a women's physio will actually help you going forward with your own physical health. So yeah, it's well worth seeing someone. There's a brilliant person in Sevenoaks. I'm sure there's loads in Bromley, but the one in Sevenoaks is called Gemma Pilkington.
Okay, it's not far.
Yeah, it's not far from you, is it? So she's great, and I just think it's such an important thing to invest in, because you know, you just don't have to live with the problems that a lot of people do live with, you know, until their older years. It's just not necessary, because there is a lot that can be done. It's just there's no emphasis in mainstream healthcare. which is a shame. And also it will help, you know, when you're preparing your body or healing your body and then preparing it to get pregnant again, it will just help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if you are doing the perineal massage, you'll have a good idea of what's normal down there, so that after birth, if you do have concerns, you kind of, you know what, you know, if things feel different, then definitely go and see the GP and get it checked, because, you know, there are things that can shift, and your perineum gets a lot of strain during pregnancy and birth. So if you do think something's not normal, to go and get it checked.
Yeah, brilliant. I've not heard of that mummy MOT before, so it's a really good idea.
Yeah, not many people I hadn't until I started doulaing. And actually, to be honest with you, I need to go and see one myself, because I sneezed the other day and wet myself. and it just doesn't need, I know that it doesn't need to be that way. So yeah, well, you should all go and see a women's physio.
It's hard at the moment because with just public toilets and stuff. We went to the beach on Friday, and, you know, the old me would never think twice about going out for half a day and needing the toilet. I just wouldn't do. As soon as we got there, I thought, I need the toilet, and there are no public toilets open.
Oh no!
But it's never something I've had to think about before.
It's weird, isn't it? It's yeah, there's not much space in there, that's the problem.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh.
Great, thank you.
Going back to the what Laura said about getting a scarf and sort of supporting your hips. I know one thing which I looked into doing and I didn't do in the end, but I actually wish I had this pregnancy, is going for a closing of the bone ceremony. And that's where they kind of it's quite a spiritual thing, I think, as well, but they wrap your pelvis up with scarves and wraps, and it helps your pelvis close and readjust, and it supports your uterus and everything. So that's something else which is quite nice thing, and I think it's quite a nice sort of way to kind of close that kind of chapter of birth and transition to motherhood. So that's another thing to consider, maybe, if it's something that appeals to you.
I've not heard of that either. It's amazing.
People find that quite emotional because so yeah, there's massage involved. So you know, someone who's well trained will massage your kind of womb area to help with the closing, and then wrap you up and actually your whole body up in rebozo scarves. And in some cultures it's known as, this sounds a bit dramatic, but it's known as the death ceremony, and it's like saying goodbye, because there's a lot of grief, and your husband might find this too. There's an element of grief involved with becoming a mum, because you're letting go of who you were and embracing who you are. And so so the closing of the bone ceremony on a spiritual level helps you let go of who you were, which is, you know, very emotional for a lot of people. And then kind of embrace who you've become, which is a huge part of the first 6 weeks of parenthood. You know, it's the kind of, by the way, if you have thoughts of what the hell have we done, that's completely normal, and that's kind of linked to what I'm talking about. So there may be points in your first 6 weeks or beyond where you look at your husband, you look at your baby and go, what have we done? And I've spent a lot of time speaking to mums who kind of grieve, are really in quite, they love their child, but they're in a lot of grief about, you know, I'm not able to go out whenever I want. My husband and I are arguing. We've never argued before. You know, that's so normal. And it will change. It's such a dramatic shift in dynamic. And yeah, a closing ceremony can just help you almost accept what's happened and what's changed, even though you're so happy and it's what you want. You know, it's okay to kind of, just have thoughts of, I have no idea why we decided to do this.
I think most people kind of go through that. Yeah. Kind of, and there's what have I done?
There's a lot of guilt attached to it, because obviously, and you know, particularly for people whose pregnancies have been hard fought, so people who've had to overcome infertility or you know, have had miscarriages, or you know, tragedies in the past, you know, to them this child is everything, and then they arrive and they're like, oh God, I don't feel as happy as I thought I would. And that's, you know, that can be really traumatizing, but it's so normal. And it doesn't mean that you don't love your child, it just means that you're a normal human being who's been through a huge change.
Yeah, it is a big adjustment. I think as a parent, when you become a parent, you realize how, I want to say selfish, because you kind of you have the luxury of putting yourself first all the time before you have kids, and then afterwards you have to become selfless to a large extent. And I think it's completely normal to grieve that kind of, you know, selfless ability to kind of just, you know, do whatever you want whenever you want, and not have to, you know, put somebody else first all the time. So and you do get massive feelings of guilt for feeling, you know, pissed off at, you know, sometimes, because, you know, it is such a big adjustment, and that's, you know, you have to allow yourself to feel that, because it's normal.
I remember feeling just so incompetent. You know, I had been so successful in my job and, you know, just kind of on it with everything in my life, I felt. Whether that was true or not, I have no idea. But, you know, suddenly I've got this tiny human, and, you know, I'm a new mum, and I'm dealing with my physical changes and my hormonal changes, and my, you know, my new headspace, trying to get out the door, you know, with a pram and a mountain of bags, and, you know, just feeling really inadequate. And that's, you know, it's not easy, but again, it's completely normal. And it gets so much easier and better. And the best advice I ever received was just to find the humor in it. Give yourself a break and just laugh at yourself, and you know, laugh with your husband, and just try and see the funny side, because it is quite ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'll try. Definitely already feeling those feelings now. Just, I think, with being a first-time mum, just kind of already thinking, I'm not going to have a clue what to do, and already thinking, what have we done?
But also,
I feel bad about it. I do. I definitely feel bad about it. But I think none of my friends have kids yet, so it's all very new to us. But yeah, I just hopefully we'll work it out, and I will try and see the funny side.
I mean, this is another thing that I do a lot in my work is, you know, you have got mothering instincts already. You just do, because you've got a baby inside you. So you do. And when the baby's born, they'll kick in even more. And a lot of my job is helping mums trust those instincts, because they're there. And the more, you know, and you'll probably be the one that spends, you know, almost all of your time with the baby, so you'll just understand. Do you know if you're having a boy or a girl?
No.
Okay, so you'll understand him or her, even if you don't believe it yourself, you just will. And so yeah, a lot of my job as a postnatal doula is kind of just holding that space so that mums can explore those instincts for themselves, and over time you'll begin to believe that actually, yeah, your instincts are there and they are correct. And you know, and then as that confidence grows, that's kind of when I leave, and I'm like, you've got this, you know, call me if you need me, but you're fine. So you know, so they're there, you know. That's what I 100% believe for absolutely everyone. But trusting them is a completely different story. So yeah, all these feelings of what have we done, and I'm not going to have a clue, you know, that's very normal, but it's actually not true. You will. It takes so much time to kind of get into here, to remove all the thinking, and to get into our gut feeling.
Yeah.
I'd also say if you are the first in your kind of friendship circle that have to have kids, definitely make use of the kind of the new mum groups, like whether that's online or in person. You know, try making other new mum friends is massively helpful. I made two friends on Net Mums when I was pregnant 8 years ago now, and we're still really, really close. And we set up our own little WhatsApp group, the three of us. And, I knew that at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was up breastfeeding, my baby, I could drop them a message and they would be up as well. And we could have a chat and have some support. And I think there's a lot to be said with, making those connections with other new mums so that you can say, well, does your baby do this? Or, does this, if I looked back at our WhatsApp, the photos, there were so many photos of dirty nappies. Does this colour look normal? Because if you can't send those photos to anybody else. I could send it to my mum, but she won't remember because it was, almost 40 years ago since she last had me. So definitely make some friends with some other new mums so that you can kind of have those kind of chats, because it definitely helps massively.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. That's such a good point. And I think Peanut is quite good, isn't it? The Peanut app. Yeah.
I actually I removed it. I think I'm going to go back on it afterwards, but I've just found in pregnancy it worried me more than lots of negativity. But I think for new mums it's probably more for new mums. I think.
Yeah. That's a good idea. And yeah, as Erin says, like I was in Sydney, I didn't know anyone really, let alone anyone that was pregnant. And all you need is a couple of friends. I was put into a group by the midwives, didn't get on with most people, but it was still so useful to have, because no one else wanted to talk about naps in the way, like at length, in the way that I needed to, apart from those mums, and I made a couple of lifelong friends, and that's all you need, just even just one who gets it, who's on the same wavelength. And there is still so much online since lockdown. I'm sure Erin's got a ton of resources. It's definitely worth doing for sure.
Did you have any other questions, Livia?
No, that's all been so helpful. Thank you.
It's lovely to meet you. I really hope it goes brilliantly.
Thank you. Erin's helped me massively. So I'll be sharing my story afterwards. I'm really excited.
I'm so excited for you. It's not long to go now.
No, I mean, it could be any day really. So yeah, I hope it's soon.
Yeah, I know that's the thing, isn't it? If you have any questions, then just get in touch. I don't know if you're on Instagram. I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
So feel free to send a message. But
thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your time today.
Oh, it's been lovely.
Take care, Livia. And
all right, I'll log off now. Thanks very much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Right, let me just stop the recording 1 sec.